Hello everyone, it's Michelle Lupton here with a short little video for you for my series of Case Me a Christmas Card for 2021. So today my guest is my friend Donna Lewis, and I'm going to be casing a card where she used this double stencil set from Pink and Main. I was really excited when I saw this stencil set, because I've been looking for a double stencil with holly leaves and holly berries for a long time. Holly leaves and berries are one of my favourite images to use on Christmas cards. So I pulled out my life-changing blender brushes from Picket Fence Studios and a bunch of inks from Hero Arts. So I started with a Fresh Lawn ink, then I moved on to the Antigua ink, which is this beautiful sort of aqua green colour. And then I didn't know which colour to go with next. I was originally going to be using field greens, but then I decided I wanted a paler green, so I went with lime green instead for the next lot of the leaves. But I kept the field greens out because what I decided to do was to use the field greens colour, which is sort of a darker, more kind of olivey green colour, browner green colour, to just add a little bit of dimension to each of these holly leaves. So just in one corner, and sort of blended that colour out, so I gave a bit of dimension. All right, so the colours that I'm using are not exactly the same as the ones that Donna used in her card using this stencil, but I actually made two cards, and to see the other card you'll have to have a look on my blog, but I'm using this double stencil, and basically it's really easy to line up. There's a little rectangle cut out of one side, and as soon as you line that up, you've got the stencils lined up perfectly. So I just put the leaf stencil on top and the berry stencil underneath, lined it up with where I'd already stenciled the leaves, and just placed it down back onto my masking tape that I had holding the stencil in place. All right, so for the reds, I actually started with a colour that's technically not a red at all. I used Soft Cantaloupe, which is kind of an orange colour. And then I added some Pale Tomato, and then I went in with the Red Royal, which is a really deep, rich red colour, perfect for Christmas cards. And I just added that to the edges of some of the larger holly berries, again, just to add a little bit of dimension. And then I was finished with the stenciling, and I just love that reveal when you pull a stencil off. All right, so this is the card that I am casing of Donna's. You can see she's used that stencil, but she's also added some sort of splatters of colour in the background. She's also added some of these little enamel dots, little sparkly enamel dots, and she's used much sort of more olive and browny tone greens than I did. But I really love the look of that stencil. Now I decided I needed to grunge mine up a little bit more by adding some splatters like Donna had on her card. So I pulled out my Gansai Tambi Starry Colours paint palette, and I'm using this yellow gold colour. I just sprayed some water into that little pan, and I'm pulling out some of that gold off onto my craft mat, and I'm just going to be splattering that onto my card. So I actually had to grab a piece of cardstock to sort of protect my work surface in front of me, so I didn't go splattering things all over my computer. So I decided I needed a few more extra big splats, and then I decided just to add some extra shine. I pulled out my Paper Glitz Sparkle from Picket Fence Studios, and I actually have this already in a little spray bottle, and I use it by pulling out the spray mechanism and just sort of flicking and splashing on that paper glitz, and it gives the most amazing shine. So I've got shine from the gold splatters and shine from the Paper Glitz Sparkle, and so I sort of grunged it up a little bit. Now I decided to cut this down and mat it onto another piece of cardstock, but I wanted to grunge it up a little bit more, so I added some antique linen distress ink. I just blended that onto the edges of my pieces of cardstock, just to add a little bit more brown and sort of, grunge it up a little bit. Okay, so it's a colour I don't often use, but it goes really well with gold. And I've got this gold cardstock that I've had in my stash for years and years and years. I don't even know if it's still available. Anyway, I cut that down so I had a little bit of a border around my panel. And I'm just going to adhere that down with my tape runner. I use Kokuyu tape runner. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Donna should be able to tell me because she's been living in Japan for a while, so she should be able to pronounce it really well. Anyway, I'm again adhering down onto my card front, so I had a little bit of a gold border there, and that's my panel done. Now, moving on to my sentiment, I had originally planned on white embossing this sentiment on a piece of black cardstock, but I decided to make it gold instead. So I've got some black cardstock here. This is from Hero Arts, and I'm using a stamp from the Ulta New set called Warm Blessings, which is new to me this year. One of the very few Christmas stamp sets that I've actually bought this year. I try to limit how many I buy each year. And just adding my embossing powder. This is Hero Arts Gold embossing powder that I'm adding here. And I made sure to prep my black cardstock really well with powder tool to make sure my embossing powder only went to where I wanted it to go. All right, so I'm just going to cut that down. And I'm cutting it with my little paper trimmer here so that I can cut close to the letters, but then fussy cut with my scissors around the letters that go above and below the main line of the text. One of my favourite things to do with sentiments, especially when I've got a background that I really don't want to cover up very much with a sentiment. I try and minimise the amount of excess cardstock I've got around the sentiment. All right, so that's ready to go. I decided I wanted to pop that up on some dimensional adhesive. So I pulled out my Stampin' Dimensionals from Stampin' Up, which I really like using them, and popped it up and put it onto my card. And then as soon as I put it down on my card, sorry, my hair gets in the way, I realised it's slightly crooked. Don't you just love it when things go perfectly until right at the end? So anyway, I pulled it off, straightened it up a little bit, and now I'm done. All right, so thank you very much for watching. Please go and visit Donna's blog and see what she's been up to. She has cased one of my cards. And thank you very, very much for watching today. And we'll see you next time. Bye.